They say, if you devote yourself to an ideal, and if they cannot stop you, then you become something else entirely. A legend, Christopher Nolan. Welcome everyone, my name is Marc Anthony Brown, and my topic for the Graduation Outcomes Project is Representative John Lewis. In this presentation, I shall talk to you about Mr. Lewis's life, struggling for equality for African Americans and other minorities that were subject to discrimination. John Lewis was born near Troy, Alabama on February 21st, 1940. As a boy, John Lewis grew up in a segregated world. He was raised on a farm, and at the age of 5, he was in charge of the chickens at the farm. At night, he would preach to the chickens how discrimination was wrong and how one day he was going to change the world. John Lewis was inspired by the preachings of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. When Mr. Lewis got older, he was accepted to Fisk University, a melting pot for the civil rights movement. He partnered with the Freedom Riders in 1961, and also he soon partnered with Martin Luther King Jr. and became one of the 6 major players to the civil rights movement. During his time with the Freedom Riders, he soon met a lifelong friend, Jim Zwerg. Jim grew up in an all-white community and was told that he should discriminate against minorities, but Jim did not see the joy in discrimination and racism and vowed to stop it. So he soon met John Lewis with the Freedom Riders. John Lewis spoke at the March on Washington at the age of 23 in front of millions of people, but his speech was overshadowed by the famous I Have a Dream speech given by Martin Luther King Jr. The SNCC, also known as the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, was an organization that was responsible for student activism movements. Mr. Lewis became a chairman for the SNCC in 1963. Over the years, though, John Lewis would be attacked and beaten during his time with the Freedom Riders for what he was fighting for. But then a day occurred unlike any other. Bloody Sunday occurred on March 7th, 1965. John Lewis was at the head of 600 people who were crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge to Montgomery. The local police came and a fight broke out, and John Lewis was hit in the head and suffered a concussion. But John Lewis continued to fight for equality for African Americans and other minorities. Later that year, John Lewis was called to Washington, D.C., and when President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The act prohibited anyone to deny any United States citizen the right to vote. Now anyone could vote in the United States, no matter the color of your skin. John Lewis ran to become a representative for Georgia. Once he won the election, he fought for more equality for African Americans and other minorities throughout the United States for the next couple decades. Today, John Lewis still fights for the social justice theme of solidarity and rights and responsibilities. The social justice theme of solidarity states that we are one human family, wherever our national, racial, ethnic, economic, and non-intellectual differences are. The social justice theme of rights and responsibility states every person has the fundamental right to life. In conclusion, Representative John Lewis's life hasn't been a pretty life, but was a life well worth it. To see now that he has won the battle of segregation, even though it's not a perfect world, it's a world to be proud of. Thank you for listening.